Hi, I'm Janice Penning. I'm a professional certified coach living in Toronto, Canada.
And I'm David Lanjuli, also a PCC living in Naples, Florida.
Hi, I'm Margaret Katz Can. I'm an ACC and I live in Boulder, Colorado.
And I'm Michelle Malloy Dillon, and I am a PCC, and I also live in Boulder, Colorado with Margaret. And together we have created fundraising leadership, and we focus on growing nonprofit leaders. And we've got some pain points that we've noticed in our coaching clients that we've noticed over time that we all have in common. And the first one is that oftentimes our clients are squeezed between their frontline work and also managing their team.
Yeah, it's really, I think, one of the things we see the most is like people are promoted, because they really do a great job of working often with donors, and they love working with donors. And then suddenly you're managing a team, and it can be very seductive to kind of try to control maybe what is happening in terms of fundraising, because that's your area of expertise. And I think a lot of times what we try to do, like we use the core competency of listening actively to really like notice that, like notice our clients energy and like what cues they're giving us, and sort of point out to them maybe behavior that they're not seeing that might be making them feel more stress in that squeeze than they actually need to.
Yeah, stress is really one of the ways we notice with our clients that they are experiencing that squeeze between the different roles that they're holding. And it's a real growth edge for a lot of people, especially people who are going newly into managing teams and things like that.
Yeah. And I think by listening and paying attention, we can help them sort of understand, there's two very different leadership styles, two very different energetic spaces that people get into, especially fundraisers and people who work in nonprofits and have fundraising as part of their job. When you are actively fundraising, working with donors versus when you are supervising, training, giving counsel and supervision to your team. And it's a hard space to drift between. And I think when we listen, we can help them be more conscious about switching gears from one thing to another thing.
The other thing I notice more and more in my work and in our work with clients is noticing our intuition. It's the way we listen at a whole different level. And listening to clients when they show up saying one thing, but our intuition might be telling us something else. And then actually, you know, um, demonstrating for them that it's okay to use your intuition by actually using ours.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, David, because I think, as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking about one of the books I really like, Immunity to Change, and this idea of like sometimes we're saying like I want to empower my team and I want to let go, and I want to like do less fundraising so I have more time to be a leader and mentor my team. And then our behavior is not matching that, because it's actually like I get a lot of satisfaction from, giving advice or stepping in to rescue, when things are going off the rails, or I actually miss talking to my donors. So maybe I'm doing a bit too much of that now when I'm supposed to be doing, leadership activities. So I think that's really true. It's like for us, sometimes like naming that is powerful, but also kind of normalizing, as you said, Michelle, like, often people come to us in transition. So maybe they're a first time manager, or maybe it's like, oh, I've never managed people who manage people, right? So suddenly I'm like in a senior leadership role and it's very different. And so kind of normalizing that it's like, there is a transition period, and to sort of cut yourself some slack during that time can be really helpful for clients.
Yeah. What I
Yeah, one
really
of the
what I
Go
love
ahead.
about what both of you guys are saying with intuition is it's such a beautiful thing to model with intuition. Also, not to be attached to being right, not to be attached to it leading to a specific outcome, but just to say it, put it into the space, and perhaps it resonates, and perhaps, you know what, not today. But it's such a beautiful thing to be able to model for leaders also as they learn to use their intuition with their teams.
Yeah, Margaret, that's exactly what I was just about to say too. It's learning, helping them learn intuition with their teams can be so impactful as well. So if we're able to model that as coaches and really truly be able to listen and listen for what's being unspoken with our clients. It's also a great way to model for people who are learning leadership skills with their teams, is ways to listen, check in
Yeah,
with their teams.
there's also something in the listening that I would say that we are curious. ABC, always be curious. And that's another way of listening as coaches, that if we can always be curious with our clients, there's a lot of learning for them in our curiosity.
Yeah. And, it makes me think, David, too, like, I often talk to clients about the ripple effect. And I think that's one of the ways that coaching is so helpful for leaders, is like, just naturally, like, we all know this because we all have coaches as well that we've worked with at different times. Like, when you're being coached, you naturally notice, like, oh, someone's being really curious with me, and that feels really good. Like, oh, someone's like actually sharing their intuition with me, and that's really impactful for me to hear what that is, or somebody's naming something that I'm not seeing. And I think that what they do is then they naturally start to be interested in actually learning, like, oh, how can I be a coach like manager, which is obviously a way to help overcome that squeeze, because if they can empower their team, and, that's another thing we love to do, is like help people learn how to be more coach like as we're working with them. It's like, that's going to free up a lot of time. And that sort of connects to our next pain point, which we see is like overwhelm and tiredness. What are you all seeing from your client? I mean, probably more so lately, but I think that it is a hallmark of the nonprofit space that we're doing a lot with very little, oftentimes.
Yeah, there is a way that some folks who work in the nonprofit world are so driven by the mission that they will drive themselves into the ground, so to speak. And again, it's that noticing and naming what's going on, listening, maybe intuiting the energy level. They might even show up completely exhausted to a coaching session and, oh, everything's fine. Like, how often does that happen?
Yeah. I don't think everything's fine. Yeah. Listening. Checking in.
For so many of our clients, the exercise of working from home during COVID, and, I'm not even speaking about the crazy transitions of going back, not going back, that kind of thing, but people actually developed a lot of awareness about themselves. Am I an introvert or am I an extrovert? How do I like to work? Am I excited about being in an office? Do I really want my dog always on my feet under my desk? And so there's so much to work with in terms of, people have noticed all of these things, but our clients haven't necessarily articulated them, figured out how to apply them to, what they need going forwards. But it's been a time of great introspection. People know a lot, even if they haven't yet found the opportunity to express it.
Yeah, I think it's what's coming up for me as you say that, Margaret, is like the competency of evoking awareness, and like the foundation, I know for all of us, because I know we work differently, but similarly, is really that values, right? Like, what are my core values as a leader? And also, like you're saying, Margaret, like, what is my personality style? What are my unique skills? Like, what are my passions? Like, and I agree with you. It's, for many people, this has been a time where they've been able to kind of pull back and think about that. And I think I often sort of joke with clients, I'm like, I can't help you manufacture more time here, but I can create, help you create more energy for yourself. And I think that really is where living a more purposeful life that it like aligns with our values, even if we're still doing the same amount of things, can feel very different.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, Janice. One of the in the realm of awareness, one of the things I love working with clients on is helping them identify their zone of genius. And that can be very different for different folks. And distinguishing that zone of genius is first noticing those activities in your life that bring you great joy, and that's aligned with values also. Typically, when you are doing work that is aligned with your values, you derive great joy from it. Except when you're in these leadership roles, sometimes there's a veil that comes down, a veil of opaqueness, that somehow we get convinced that we have to do all these other things. And then we get caught up in doing all these other things, and that is life sucking.
Yeah.
So listening and helping clients be aware of what's life sucking can be very helpful in them getting to do what is life giving.
And it helps them reignite with their passion, which is often what nonprofit leaders sometimes need help with is, oh, I got into this work to begin with because I was passionate about the mission, and I've got lost along the way. And so reigniting that passion can be very energizing.
Yeah. And I'm connecting that to what David said earlier about the mission too. Like I think sometimes, and I've heard sometimes too, like younger fundraisers in particular, I think are really good at articulating this, that organizations also can kind of take advantage of that, like that passion for mission, and maybe push people to like be doing more. So your values can help you to kind of take a stand often for yourself, like if you realize that you really balance like exercise or spending time with your family or things like that, right? It can kind of give you that. And I think that connects nicely to the third point that we see a lot, which is, once you start to put up boundaries, you have to have challenging conversations.
Yes. So true. So true.
Sometimes those challenging conversations have to be with yourself. And I think this is a really important role that coaches play, is really to help clients have challenging conversations with themselves. And be a mirror for that kind of conversation.
Yeah, I think especially David, maybe you and Margaret can speak more to this, but the idea of saboteurs and the pleaser saboteur. I know you're kind of our resident experts in this work, so tell us more about that and how common it is in the nonprofit world.
Yeah. So David and I do a lot of work within the PQ program, the Insure's program, helping people with their saboteurs. And, I'm here to tell you that among the fundraiser community, pleaser is, just everywhere. Is it causal, correlative? I can't tell you, but it certainly exists. And boy, there's nothing harder than having a bunch of pleasers sit at the table and asking somebody to start a challenging conversation, or a conversation that might gasp, hurt somebody's feelings, or offer
or say
creative
no
criticism, or God forbid, yes, like actually use the word no. So there's so much to be done there.
Yeah, and as coaches, we really listen actively in order to help our clients identify their saboteurs or their negative voices that, begin to run them, begin to control them, and to give them the awareness. So once again, this leads into the ICF competency of listening actively and evoking awareness, so they can be more aware of those voices that they need to sort of squash a little bit, be more in control of.
Yes. Yeah.
Or at least be more at choice with.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
As opposed to having the pleaser voice always running your life, running you into the ground. That's another thing that the pleaser saboteur does, especially in a nonprofit world. When you're trying to please everyone all the time, you end up pleasing
nobody, including yourself.
And exhausting yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think I love that. It's like there's those internal challenging conversations, and then another book that we all really love is Kim Scott's Radical Candor. And I think that's the other side, is like we see what she refers to in that book as ruinous empathy, where it's like I'm only kind of giving false praise. I'm not willing to actually care enough about somebody that I'm going to give them feedback that it can actually help them grow. And I think this is another thing where it's like this is quite common in the nonprofit sector. Like we don't default to what is obnoxious aggression, right? Is the other extreme. Radical candor is what we want, but I think some industries default to obnoxious aggression more, and I think really the nonprofit sector, if there's a failing, it's ruinous empathy, like nicey nice, too much nicey nice.
Yeah, the unwillingness to challenge directly. And I do think as coaches with the ICF core competencies, we can start to listen and name those things, and then ask clients, like, what's the impact that's having on you and on your team of being ruinously empathetic? Like, care personally, yes, and be willing to challenge directly. It's something that's very hard for people with a pleaser saboteur.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we all do this, like as coaches, we are showing our clients that this is normal. Like there's nothing wrong with them
Right.
by feeling this way whatsoever. It's completely normal, but empowering our clients to have more of an ability to have these challenging conversations and to be able to, like you said, David, know their choices. Like we are all in choice at every moment.
Yeah,
One
I
of
think
the-
it's, yeah,
One
go
of the
ahead, Mark.
ideas also just about cultivating growth, as a coach. Another thing that we model with our clients is we can create safe spaces that aren't always comfortable. And those are really ideal places to grow. And, if you are in a leadership position and you want your team members to grow and be able to hear feedback, you have to learn also how to create safety that is not always comfortable. So it's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing to help them learn about.
Yeah, that's exactly. See, we're all having these intuitive hits. That's exactly where I
Yeah.
was going to
Well,
go.
I actually love what you're saying, Margaret, because what I'm hearing you say, because I'm listening to you, is that coaching is by design uncomfortable. And I know that may be counterintuitive for folks who are listening to this, but coaching is about learning and growth. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems to be one of those things we just don't learn as much, from the sunshine and the unicorns some days.
And lollipops.
But I forgot lollipops.
Lollipops. Of
How can I
course.
forget lollipops?
Yeah, I think that's what's coming to me as I'm listening to all of you is like there's a way in which a coach cares enough about you to challenge you. That's part of our job, is to challenge clients, and so people learn to appreciate that. It's because they grow from that, and then they see like, oh, okay, like that's something that I now want to do again, right? It's the ripple effect. And then I think on a practical note, it's also, I know with my clients, sometimes if they have like a challenging conversation, we get grounded in their values, why they want to say it, but also it can be helpful just to practice, like to actually say it. And then, I can sort of give feedback of like, this is landing this way, maybe they're saying it in a way that's like a bit of an unintentional impact, and they want to edit it a little, so having somebody that you can practice a challenging conversation and be really clear of like why you're having the challenging conversation is very important. And I think that, I'll go into the fourth one now, which I think very much relates to this. Like once we sort of start to have these challenging conversations and push each other a little bit, a lot of the work we also do as a team is like helping people to then, once you have candor, then you can sort of also start to work on like really having a strong culture of accountability, which is often another pain point I think that we see lacking in the nonprofit space, where there's kind of ambiguity or a lack of clarity around like who's actually responsible for what is supposed to happen and when it's supposed to happen, and how everybody's supposed to know that it happened.
Yeah, it's hard to overstate. I mean, really, in the nonprofit world, especially where fundraising is such a, cherished activity, the skill sets are so different and the culture is so different. And I mean, really, with both of these pain points, having challenging conversations, working on accountability in your culture, these are things where if you are only a frontline fundraiser, you don't learn these in the same way because you're not trained to have challenging conversations with a donor. And so the importance, for new leaders in the nonprofit space to be able to come up with these skills that they don't get as much practice on in their frontline work is so essential.
Yeah, and a key part of our job as coaches is to really hold our coaching clients accountable for things too. But here's the magic: without judgment, so that we really can support their learning.
Yeah.
And modeling that as a coach, seeing what our clients want to make a commitment to, and then saying, well, great, go out and do that. And who do you want to be accountable to make that happen? What do you need? What kind of structure do you need to create? It creates that self-sufficiency for people.
Well, I love what you're saying, Michelle. And I think you and Janice coined this term some months ago called accountability buddies.
I'd like to take responsibility for that, but I learned that long ago from someone I can't remember.
Well, I heard it.
I
guess
love
heard
that
it.
word. It's fun to say, and it makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, and I'm mindful that I was having an enrollment conversation with a prospective coaching client not too long ago. And one of the things she said to me was, well, I have mentors and I have my boss and I have my family members, but I really don't have anyone in my corner. And I said to her, I will be in your corner. That's my promise. This is actually a promise we make as coaches, that we will be in your corner without shame or blame.
Yeah. I think, that brings up for me, David, like I've often said this to prospective clients, like other people in your life care about you, but they're invested in your decision. Whereas your coach is like a neutral person who like fully cares about you living a fulfilled life, living your values, like achieving your goals. But how you actually do that doesn't impact us, right? So we can be neutral enough to say, like, try that, fail, learn from it, experiment. This is sort of like your place of full permission is with your coach.
Be an experiential learner. Have at it. Yeah, totally. What can we learn from how that went? Yeah. It's a beautiful space for most people.
It's like the competency of cultivating learning and growth, talks about a lot about accountability, but I love what Michelle brought up earlier. It's like, it's accountability in the sense of like somebody is curious, what you said earlier, David, right? It's not about blaming and shaming. It's just like, okay, did that happen? If it happened, what did you learn? If it didn't happen, what did you learn? Like, and there's not that many places in life where we can unpack things like success and failure. I mean, I think we also sometimes downplay unpacking success. Like we think we have to learn through struggle. And I love as a coach, like actually having people talk about their success and like, how did you show up in that meeting? Like what made that so different than before? Like what made you be able to be so much more successful? And often we don't do that. It's just like, oh, that went really well. It's like, well, there's a lot to learn, from things that don't go well. And there's a lot to learn also from things that go well.
Yeah, I love the word cultivating in the ICF competency of cultivating learning and growth. It's like we're watering the garden of learning and growth. We're not shutting it down. We're not starving it. It's like it's all allowed. If that's something you want to go out and try, go out and try. And I can't wait to hear from you during our next conversation and see how it's going, and then we'll give it a little more water and see what happens next.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So let's let's each maybe go around and have a few final words before we wrap this up.
Yeah, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to challenge yourself to grow, then go get yourself a coach.
Yeah, and find an accountability buddy that will help support you in that.
I think, we're seeing that in the corporate world, coaching is becoming a very accepted tool to support leaders. And, we're here to tell you that the nonprofit world, the university world, all of these types of institutions, same thing, really. Coaching is just as vital of a tool.
Yeah. And I'm going to wrap up by just reinforcing that idea of the ripple effect. I think for for me, and I think you all really agree, it's like, it's so satisfying to coach a leader, because when that person gets really grounded in who they are and what they're passionate about and what their strengths are, they naturally start to show up in the world in a way that looks for that in their team. And that makes organizations better. And the more our organizations, are more positive and happy places to work, the more that organizations can reach the mission that they set out for themselves. That's really why I love to do this work. And yeah, it's been fun to like reflect on the competencies and kind of connect them to the actual day-to-day magic that is coaching. And so thank you everyone for listening to us. And again, we're the team at Fundraising Leadership, and we'd love to hear from you. If you want to learn more about us, you can check out our website at fundraisingleadership.org.
Curious.